All right, today we're tackling something that I think we all feel. That feeling of guilt, that anxiety when we even think about exercise. We're going to explore why we get so, exercise about the whole thing.
I mean, we all know the deal, right? Physical activity is like this magic pill for our health. So why does actually getting off the couch feel like climbing Mount Everest sometimes? Look, if you've ever felt lazy or guilty for skipping a workout, you are not alone. And as you're about to see, that feeling, it's completely normal. And this is where the title of our source material, Daniel Lieberman's book, Exercised, just nails it. We think of exercise as this healthy thing we do, right? But the word exercised also means being anxious, worried, totally vexed. That one word, it just perfectly captures the internal conflict we all feel. So where does this struggle even come from? Well, turns out it's all rooted in some really powerful and frankly misleading myths.
Okay, first up, let's talk about this image we all have in our heads of our ancestors. You know the one, these super fit, chiseled athletes just effortlessly bounding across the savannah. This is exactly what the author Daniel Lieberman calls the myth of the athletic savage. And let's be honest, it's a really appealing idea, isn't it? We kind of romanticize this natural past, thinking that if we weren't, corrupted by our comfy chairs and cars, we'd all be these elite athletes. But that's really a fantasy. It sets this impossible standard for us. And the actual science? It tells a much more interesting story.
So let's just look at the data for a second. When you compare a hunter-gatherer group, like the Hadza, to the average American, yeah, no surprise, they are way more active. But here's the key thing. It's how they're active that matters. You see that moderate activity? That's most of it. Basically a brisk walk. And that vigorous activity? That's not them hitting the gym for an hour. No way. It's short, necessary bursts of effort, not some scheduled workout. Or take the Tarahumara people in Mexico. They're famous for their incredible long-distance running. But here's the thing, they don't train for marathons. Their training is their life. An average day, just to get from their farm to the fields or to hunt, a man might walk 10 miles. For our ancestors, physical activity wasn't a choice you made. It was just a non-negotiable part of staying alive.
So, if our ancestors were only moving when they absolutely had to, what were they doing the rest of the time? Simple. They were resting. And this right here, reveals a huge truth. That instinct you have to be lazy, it's not some modern moral failing. It's not you being weak. Evolutionarily speaking, it's a feature, not a bug.
To really get this, we've got to rewind all the way back to our ape ancestors. For them, every single calorie was precious, and moving around burned a lot of those precious calories. So, evolution basically programmed a super simple rule into their brains. If you don't have to move, don't. Conserve energy no matter what. And even though we humans later evolved to be much more active, that deep, ancient instincts to avoid unnecessary work, well, it never really left us.
And hey, if you think you can just outthink this ancient instinct, just listen to this perfect and kind of funny little story. There's a sports medicine conference, so a room full of people who literally preach about exercise for a living. They're given a choice, take the stairs or take the escalator. What do you think happened? A whopping 93% took the escalator. It just goes to show, even when we know what's good for us, our ancient brain is always looking for that shortcut.
All right, so if our natural instinct is to rest, what are we supposed to do with all those scary headlines we see? You know the ones, all about the dangers of sitting. Is it really as bad as everyone says it is?
We've all heard this one, right? Sitting is the new smoking. It's a terrifyingly simple phrase that's kind of become this modern health mantra. It paints this picture of our office chairs as these silent killers. Honestly, it's a message designed to scare us into moving.
But is it actually true? I mean, there's a big problem with that comparison when you think about it. Smoking is this recent, toxic thing we invented. Sitting? That's something humans have always done. So, what is really going on here?
Well, the real answer isn't about whether we sit, it's about how we sit. For thousands and thousands of years, we sat on the ground. We'd be squatting or kneeling, constantly shifting our weight around. That's what you'd call active sitting, because it keeps your muscles working. But the modern chair, the one with all the support, it lets us just slump totally passively. So the problem isn't sitting itself. It's sitting completely motionless in a chair for hours on end.
And just how out of practice are we? Well, the author of the book tried to sit like the Hadza people, and it was a complete disaster. He said after just a few minutes, his feet and legs felt like they were on fire. The only way he could get up was to literally roll over onto an elderly Hadza woman sitting next to him, who, by the way, just burst out laughing. It's a hilarious little story, but it perfectly shows how much our bodies have forgotten these really basic natural human movements.
Okay, so let's recap. We're not descended from super athletes. Our brains are hardwired to be lazy, and just sitting isn't the real enemy. So, where does that leave us? It actually leaves us in a really good place. It frees us from all that guilt and points us toward a much smarter way to think about movement, working with our nature instead of constantly trying to fight it.
So how do you trick a brain that's programmed to take it easy? Simple. You have to tap into other human drives that are even more powerful. First, you have to make movement necessary. Park a little farther away, always take the stairs, walk to the store if you can. Second, make it social. We are fundamentally social creatures, and working out with other people, that adds a layer of commitment. And finally, and maybe most importantly, make it fun. Because if it feels like play, it's no longer a chore that your brain is trying to get out of.
And all of this really leads to a big shift in our mindset. That old just do it mentality, the one that's full of shame and blame, it just doesn't work. A much better, and honestly a much kinder approach, is to recognize that we all struggle with this. And, as the author puts it, we should help each other choose to exercise.
So the next time you feel that magnetic pull of the couch, just remember, you're not lazy, you're human. The struggle's real, but it's not a life sentence. The real question is, now that you know all this, how are you going to choose to move? How are you going to make it necessary, social, and maybe even a little fun?